What's up, guys? It's Tim Bowman here. I'm a real estate agent in Cincinnati, Ohio, and today we're talking about how to get the most out of your appraisal. So that's a great question. Before we get started, let's talk about what an appraisal is, right? So you have an appraiser, that's a person who's been to school. Their whole job is to go out to properties and decide how much they're worth usually for the banks, usually for the loan companies, right? So they're a certified person, their title is an appraiser, and their appraisal is nothing more than their opinion on what that property or land is worth on that day that they were there. That is it. It's that simple. So if this is someone's opinion, can an opinion be swayed or persuaded a little bit one way or the other? Absolutely. This is someone's opinion, right? So we're trying to do the best that we can to get the best appraisal. Sometimes it's easy you just have cold hard facts. This is what it's worth. Your house is worth $200,000 because every other house in the neighborhood is exactly like yours and they're all worth $200,000 too. That's pretty straightforward. But what happens when you have a unique piece of property or piece of land and there's not other houses in the neighborhood like yours, and you're the only person that's wanting to sell recently, and there's not as many comparables? That person is going to have to do all their research and use all their experience to come up with a value for your home, and that is just going to simply be their opinion for that day. So let's do our best to persuade them in their opinion in our favor, right? So a couple reasons why you would need an appraisal on your home. Most commonly because someone's getting a loan. That's usually why you need an appraisal. Banks are going to send out a specialized certified person called an appraiser to make sure that the bank is making a good investment. If they're going to loan someone money to buy your house, and you're selling your house, of course, then they're going to want to make sure that they don't loan too much to that person to buy your house than they should. Or maybe you're refinancing your house and you need to get a loan, right? They're going to send out an appraiser to make sure that they don't loan you too much money on your house, that they're making a good choice and loaning you the right amount of money on your refinance. So let's get into 7 different ways that we can influence the appraiser's opinion and maximize our appraisal. Number 1, make repairs. This may sound pretty obvious, but make the repairs. If there's a leaky faucet, fix it. Understanding what adds value to the home and what doesn't is a really good way to understand what things you should fix and what things you shouldn't, right? A lot of times, people don't realize that things like appliances, that you have a $3,000 fridge that all you have to do is knock on and it's going to automatically order milk for you because your milk's empty, that doesn't affect the value of your home at all. The appliances do not affect the value of your home. What does affect the value of your home are things that are attached to the home, such as the most updated countertops, or the paint color, or the roof, or the HVAC system, the age of the home, lots of things like that, the size of the home. But the stove does not necessarily, having a brand new stove does not make the value of your home worth more or less money, right? So make the repairs. Let's talk about that. Leaky faucets, that can definitely influence a guy's or a girl's opinion on the value of your home. Holes in the drywall, outdated paint, drafty windows, things of that nature. So you want to make sure overall you're just making a good impression. So make the repairs so that this person's opinion isn't persuaded in a negative way, right? Make a good impression. And speaking of impressions, let's move to number 2, curb appeal. Curb appeal is huge. Anytime someone's pulling up to your home for the very first time, this is your opportunity to make a good first impression. And you definitely want to do that for an appraiser. They're going to be the one talking about how much your house or your property is worth. So curb appeal, get the leaves out of the flower beds, mow the grass, maybe paint the house and spruce it up a little bit if that's what you need to do. If it's winter and it's been snowing, shovel the sidewalk. If you shovel the sidewalk, it appears as if you take good care of your home, and the person would really appreciate not having to walk through a foot of snow if it snows where you are to get inside your home. They would really appreciate that. First impressions, make sure your curb appeal is definitely up to date, right? Number 3, cosmetic upgrades. Cosmetic upgrades are a great way to make a good first impression. Did you know that you can buy a light fixture for like $11 at Menards? I mean, now granted, if you don't know how to install it, it can get a little more expensive, but if you do know how to install one, then you could upgrade a light fixture to a brand new stainless steel LED bright, wonderful looking, upgraded, most modern light fixture for like $11. Why wouldn't you spend that? And speaking of spending money, we're talking about making cosmetic upgrades for the least expensive costs that are going to make the biggest impact. And so with that being said, we want to make sure that little things that are cosmetic, like paint, if you can paint, then buy a gallon of paint and freshen up the paint on the inside of the house, right? Inexpensive. You're talking under $50, and if you know how to do it, paint the walls, make it look nice in there, make it look modern and updated, right? Moving on to number 4. Because you're doing all these upgrades, make sure it wouldn't be a bad idea to leave a list of recent upgrades laying around, right? For them to find, since you're trying to influence their opinion. So with that being said, appraisers don't always have all the knowledge that you have about the house. They can't walk up to it and look at your roof and say, wow, that roof was put on 6 months ago and 6 months and 1 day ago. They don't know that. Now, on the flip side, that's an expensive repair that doesn't make that much of an impact on the house if you don't tell the appraiser that you did that. If they don't know that you put on a new roof in the most recent years, they're not going to be able to make the value of your home that much more expensive whenever they go to do their job, right? So with that being said, leave a list of recent updates laying around. Put on the list, hey, we replaced the roof 2 years ago. Hey, we upgraded the HVAC, the air conditioning and the heating system in the house 5 years ago when we moved in. Hey, we just put those windows in this year, this summer. We put in brand new windows on the house. And, whatever repairs you can think of, put them on the list. It's a great idea. So with that being said, we're moving on to number 5. You're selling your home and you've gotten into contract, and the reason you need an appraisal is because the buyer is having to get a loan or a mortgage to buy your property. But you went through all these showings, and man, it was a pain in the butt because you had to leave the home every time somebody wanted to come and take a look at your house and have a showing, and you and your family need to pack everything up and get out of the house. And now you're under contract, and you're tired of keeping all the kids' toys cleaned up all day, every day to make the house look presentable. But you've got an appraisal appointment coming up. And this is not a time to let your guard down. This is not a time to go back to your comfortable way of living because you've got a couple weeks before you're closing and you've got enough time and you don't have to keep it show ready. Well, I highly recommend that, according to number 5, you keep it show ready because you're trying to make the best impression not only on the buyer to make an offer, but you need to make a great impression on the appraiser for them to appraise it enough for that buyer to be able to borrow the money to keep that offer that they made to you and close on the deal. So don't let your guard down at this point. This appraiser is as important, if not more important, than the buyer that came through looking at your house that you were trying to impress way back a couple weeks ago, okay? Moving on to number 6, give them space. Remember that list we talked about? Leave that list lay around. That's a great way to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Appraiser, here's a list of the updates. Don't walk around the house following them around, talking about all the upgrades you've done over the last 20-something years. They don't care. They've got a lot going on. They're there to do their job, look and find. Let them find all that stuff for themselves, but make it easy for them to find. Leave a list. Don't hound them. Don't run around talking about filling their head full of stuff they don't need to hear about. Let them do their job and make their job easy for them. You would appreciate it if you're doing your job and somebody didn't make yours harder. Don't chase these people around the house for a couple hours making their job harder. I promise you it's going to go a lot further than it would if you just followed them around and bugged them the whole time they were there, okay? Now, with that being said, we're going to get into the last one here, and that's called make an appraisal packet. Again, in this situation, you're selling your home or you're refinancing. This is just a packet of information of how you came up with the number that you felt like the house was worth. Maybe you're working with a real estate agent and you guys decided you're going to list the property for sale at a certain number. Where did you get that number? Get that information, put it in a little folder, and leave it out there for the appraiser. Help them do their job. They would love that. If you said, here's all the comps in the neighborhood. And remember, we talked about how they came to their opinion. Their opinion is based upon other houses that are most like your house that have sold recently, typically within the last 6 months, in the neighborhood, and what they sold for. So if all the neighbors sold their home, let's say 5 houses in your neighborhood that are exactly like yours with the same amount of bedrooms and bathrooms and built and around the same age by the same builder, they're basically the same home, have sold for 200 grand in the last 6 months. 5 houses all sold for 200 grand in the last 6 months, and you've got the 6th house that's exactly like the other 5. Chances are pretty good that you've got a $200,000 house, right? Because the appraiser's going to see all the other 5 that sold for that, and he's just basically going to say, hey, yours is probably the 6th, most likely, right? But you have left them an appraisal packet showing them all those 5 other houses and a list of all your upgrades about why yours is better than all those other houses. Maybe they, in their opinion on that day, say, wow, these other houses are definitely not as updated, definitely not as nice, they don't have anywhere near the curb appeal, and frankly, this house is worth more than $200,000. These sellers or these people refinancing the house have put a lot of work into this house. So it may be worth more than $200,000 in their opinion for that day. And that's great. So with that being said, if you are thinking about selling a house, reach out to me. My name's Tim Bowman. I'm a real estate agent here in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is how you maximize your appraisal. Remember, it's someone's opinion. So you want to make a good impression on them. Hope you guys have a great week. Good luck selling your house. Good luck on your refinance. Go out there and get the most money for your house. See ya.